everyone. I'm Eszter Kovács, co-founder of Drone Talks, and I'm here at Amsterdam Drone Week last day, but I'm a really lucky position because I could organize an interview with Michele Merkle from ICAO. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Eszter.
And if someone, I'm sure everyone knows ICAO.
Oh, they don't.
But if someone doesn't know what you do at ICAO, maybe just a short introduction if someone is unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So ICAO stands for the International Civil Aviation Organization, and we are a specialized agency of the United Nations. We were formed under the Chicago Convention in 1944, so this is our 80th anniversary. And it really was formed to ensure cooperation around the world around civil aviation, to ensure that aviation is safe, secure, and sustainable worldwide. So that really is our mandate. And the way we do that is we develop aviation standards and recommended practices, right? So the Chicago Convention, there's 19 annexes. They cover everything from making sure pilots have licenses to making sure aircraft have airworthiness certificates and are safe to fly, making sure that governing bodies follow safety management systems, that they have those in place. And really, again, to make sure that the system is safe and interoperable, right? So if you ever think of how does an aircraft fly from Amsterdam to Asia to North America, that the pilots and the air traffic controllers can communicate and all the equipment works everywhere they go.
Deconfliction.
That's what ICAO is all about, right?
Fantastic. And this is the first year you visited Amsterdam Drone Week. So why this year, strategically important for ICAO to come to a drone conference, which is such a small part of the ICAO.
It's a small part, but it's a really growing industry. Unmanned aircraft and advanced air mobility, it's really what's on the forefront of aviation now. And again, our role at ICAO is to ensure that these new types of aircraft, these new types of operators, these new entrants into aviation can work in conventional, in the conventional aviation space, right? With conventional operators to make sure it's all one chunk of airspace. Everybody has to operate in there together. So it's really important that we harmonize globally and that, these operators can all share the airspace in a safe way. And so it's unmanned aviation has been something we've been working for some time at ICAO, and very recently we really put out a new framework for remotely piloted aircraft systems. And that is, again, I mentioned these SARPs, standards and recommended practices. So we have new SARPs for our international RPAS operations to really put the basic building blocks in place for these kind of operations, which again is making sure that remote pilots have a pilot license, that airworthiness requirements have been established, that operational certificates are established. So those are some of the basic building blocks for people to operate now. And so it's very important to get that message out that we have this framework in place and to just inform people. We were talking earlier about it seems like we're just on the cusp. We're just on the cusp of having unmanned, aircraft operations be really prevalent in the airspace. But with safety as a #1 priority, it takes time. We have to do our due diligence and we have to be data driven. So it's really about getting that message out there.
And, we as an industry, we are all startups. I have my own startup. We are always impatient a little bit, right?
Exactly.
I'm not sure, but that's the honest truth. And we are always like, oh, we need to rush because we have this external push of the investors,
Yes, a lot of
and
pressure.
exactly. And I feel like ICAO is the one who say, okay, stop and think.
Yeah.
A little
Right,
bit.
right.
Sometimes I see ICAO in this big brother position. I'm not sure if you agree with it, and say
You
like,
know, we're here to be
Yeah.
an enabler, right? But there is a fine balance between we want to encourage innovation.
Yeah.
We think innovation's necessary to find the solutions to the technical and operational challenges that everybody's facing. But again, safety's our number one priority, and we need to make sure that whatever solutions we come up with don't hinder safety, they don't hinder efficiency of, airspace and aircraft operations, and that we do it in a sustainable way.
Yes. So I have another question. You may see that we have our own initiative, Women Behind the Drone Revolution, and we have a lot of stage talk about leadership and how we can encourage young females, and we have a lot of young females watching us, from aviation or other backgrounds. So if you could maybe share what was your background or how you decided to enter into this industry, and because you have a fantastic position and you do such a great collaboration globally and enabling. So you are really a leader to me. So can you share your career path and why you choose to do this?
Yeah, thank you. I'd be happy to. So I'm an engineer. I went to school. I'm an industrial and systems engineer. I went to graduate school and I specialized in human factors engineering. And I really always wanted to solve complex problems, which we certainly have facing us. But so aviation seemed like a really natural place to go. Aerospace, this was back in the 80s, was booming. And so my first job was at what is now Boeing Corporation. I went and worked on an aircraft and worked on electronic displays, which were kind of new at the time, if you can believe it, and worked on the flight deck of the aircraft, and then had the opportunity to go work at the Federal Aviation Administration, who was modernizing their air traffic control system. And again, talk about complex challenges, all this new technology was coming out from satellite surveillance and navigation, digital communications between controllers and pilots, systems that had historically been hardwired together. Now we were, in a digital age, and so cybersecurity became a threat. So over the years, I had the opportunity to work on all these different kinds of technical challenges. And as I did that, had to make decisions about if I wanted to get in management or not.
Yeah.
And, it's something you debate when you love doing the technical work. Why do I want to have people problems? But then you ask yourself, if not me, then who, right? And so I started moving up into management, and because I had such a diverse career, I had the opportunity to work on advanced concepts. I was an author for the FAA of, it's the Next Gen was their modernization initiative, and I authored the operational concept. I did a lot of the early research, sponsored a lot of the prototyping work and demonstrations. And as I said, I worked on different programs, communication, navigation, surveillance. And so that then set me up to take the current role that I have at ICAO as the director of the Air Navigation Bureau, which covers all of them from A to Z aspects of aviation. So it was, it wasn't too windy of a path. It was a pretty straight path. I think, but specifically speaking to the young women out there, we have always been a minority in aviation. We're still a minority. We were a minority in engineering. We're still a minority. When I was in school, women were 10% of my graduating class. I think they're less than 20% still.
I was alone. I'm an engineer as well.
Right.
I was alone in my class. But when by the time we graduated, in the beginning we had more, but I was the only one who graduated.
Yeah, so you can understand. And I'm trying to think what meeting I was in the other day that I counted. I looked around and it was 28 men and 3 women. And I thought, wow, the statistics haven't changed very much. But I think it's important for young women to see role models, to see someone like myself who did make a career in aviation, a career in engineering. And I think everybody's more aware now. I mean, gender parity, gender equity, they're part of UN sustainable goals. They're part of policies in most governments these days. And so hopefully the tide will be turning, but still women have to know that they have options and just be exposed to different kinds of technical careers. And that it's when I was a little girl, you know, men were pilots and women were flight attendants. It's just not like that anymore. Go on any airplane. So it's changing, but I think we have to keep promoting aviation to women and make them aware of the opportunities out there.
But what I'm really interested in, because, you know, I'm also engineer, and I also have this career path, and what keeps you keep going, right? What is your internal what is inside you? What is your philosophy? What was for you? Like, because it's sometimes you just feel like, you know what, I don't want to like push myself further, because sometimes I can only talk about my own self. They call me always the problematic, because I am sometimes more problematic than others, or they, but I am always trying to keep pushing myself and not give up. It's maybe a wrong word, but what is your
keep going?
What made you in your career keep going?
I think, you know, I have a passion for aviation. From the very first job that I had, I worked on the C-17, which was a military transport, a cargo aircraft. And still to this day, when I see them fly overhead, it just puts a smile on my face, right? I love the industry. As I said, I love complex problem solving, and there are so many complex problems to solve in this industry. So I think that's been a real motivator. And then the fact that there's always something new coming in. Right now, it's unmanned aircraft systems, right? Advanced air mobility, but it brings so many new challenges. Again, I was joking earlier, like if I could start my career all over, I would choose the same kind of career, because as a human factors engineer, the problems I was working on 35 years ago are very different. I mean, they're different, but the same problems, right? Now with artificial intelligence and remote pilots versus a pilot, you know, in the cockpit. So I think there's always a new challenge out there. I think that's something that keeps me going. And then again, for young people coming in today who are maybe more socially conscious than, you know, we probably were 30 years ago, I think the opportunities in aviation to connect the world. I mean, people at this conference, flying's nothing. Yesterday, I took a day trip to Rome and back to Amsterdam, right? I mean, it's commonplace for us to get on a plane, but still less than 10% of the people around the world have ever flown on an aircraft. So we need to connect the world. There's so much opportunity for, you know, the UN, as I said, there's UN sustainable goals of long-term aspirational goal for the climate, right? To be net carbon zero by 2050. We've got electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that can help solve that. They can help solve the noise concerns that have become such a prevalent problem in aviation over the years, with people complaining about noise. I mean, I just think there's so many other social problems, economic problems, that could be solved with some of the new technologies we're introducing into aviation. I think it's a really exciting time.
No, I agree with you. And maybe as a closing remark, what do you think? What we, if your suggestion or advice should be to us, the startups, out there watching you, and not the bigger entities like Boeing or Airbus, but more like who just now making their own strategy,
Right.
what. How should we develop the strategy in alignment with the ICAO? Because we as startups, we every year change strategy,
Yeah.
unfortunately
Mhm.
or fortunately. How should we shape this
Well,
better
yeah, because you have to be flexible, of
and dynamic
course.
and
Right.
react on everything? But we need to always understand, I think, ICAO's, main goals and basis with
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I think you have to be realistic, right? I think innovation is going to be an enabler. I don't think ICAO certainly isn't there to stifle innovation. We're there to encourage it. But you have to, you have to play to meet the expectations, I think, of the flying public, right? And so that is that whatever you develop has to be very safe. And people have different expectations for flying, even than they have for driving, right? We have zero fatal accidents for commercial aircraft is a goal. I mean, people are dying on the roads every day. We don't have those same kind of standards. So I think, new entrants into this aviation field just have to understand it is a very high bar.
Yeah,
It's a
high
very high
standards,
bar.
yeah.
And you want to meet that bar because the worst thing that could happen is that we have some kind of catastrophic incidents around unmanned aircraft that could really sidetrack,
Set back us 10 years.
really set back the industry.
Yeah.
So, I think it's to everybody's benefits that we collaborate and we work together to help each other, to help the industry to grow. So,
Yes.
I think it's really promising.
No, I agree with you. And based on my experience, a lot of tech startup had difficulties to understand they entering to the aviation. They thought they make a software or tech product,
Right.
and they just had a big aha moment, like
Yeah.
it's aviation
Yeah,
what
it's
they
aviation.
do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a high bar and for good reason. So
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
my last question, first year at Amsterdam Drone Weeks, how do you like it?
I love it. I love the energy here. I love the positivity and just seeing all these different vehicles, all these different drones, and it being part of this larger mobility conference. Just to walk around and see all the apps that are out there for vehicles, for parking and and for paying and all these things, and thinking it's not going to be that long before we're doing that to fly as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool.
Getting there. Thank you so much for the
You're
interview.
welcome.
And we learned a lot, and it's really appreciating being here. So thank you for being here. Please do follow us on our YouTube channels, and thank you for watching the show.